Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Now, I am sure you're no stranger to the madness that is going on in the world right now, and as with most people that create videos for this platform, I asked on my Instagram story what you would like to see from me to kind of keep us occupied, keep our brains off things, and just keep things a little bit normal, I guess. And one of the answers that I actually got quite a lot on that story was book recommendations. Now, I don't know whether this is because I previously, like the story literally just before it, asked for book recommendations to read, or whether a lot of you are like me in the fact that when I'm not at university is the only time that I can actually read, and I thought, you know what? If everything's getting cancelled, I'm going to make the most of this time and I'm actually going to read some books. So without further ado, I thought I would just get into it because basically a few days ago I went to Waterstones and I picked up a few new books to kind of dig my teeth into while there's not much else going on in the world. So I thought I would show you the books that I picked up, and I'd also give you a few recommendations of my own along with some of the recommendations that you guys provided when I asked for those on my story. So I thought I would start with the books that I have previously read and would recommend, because obviously those are the ones I can talk a little bit more about. The first of which being this one here. Now, this book is The Stars Within You by Juliana McCarthy. I read this book about this time last year, maybe a little bit after, when I submitted my last kind of third year assessment. I thought, you know what, I'm going to celebrate and go and get myself some books I can read now that I don't need to do academic reading. And I picked up this one because astrology is something that I am pretty interested in. Before I read this book, I didn't know much about it, but I did find it quite interesting and I wanted to know more. So I picked up this book and I absolutely loved it. It's laid out in a really understandable way. It talks through the different like sun signs, it then talks through moon signs, rising signs, different houses, how it all gets divided up, and I feel like I know a whole lot more after reading this book. The second book that I would recommend is another non-fiction book, and it is this one here. It is 100 Nasty Women of History by Hannah Jewell, and oh my goodness, I love this book. It is a big hefty one, but I think the premise of it is great. Basically, from reading the introduction from this book, what I gathered is that the author was inspired by Donald Trump when he called Hillary Clinton a nasty woman in the US candidate race. And she basically then went on and looked into all of these amazing women throughout history who were considered radical or nasty just because they were standing up for what they believed in. Again, it's divided up into really good little sections that are all quite funny actually. One of my personal favourites is Women Who Punched Nazis, metaphorically but also not, because the war, particularly the Second World War, is another random area of history that I am very, very interested in. And yeah, this book basically breaks up 100 women throughout history that were badass bitches, basically. I feel like this one's also just a really good book to keep on your bedside table because literally each woman in this book has about 3, 4, 5 pages, and so you can just pick it up, read about one woman, put it back down and go to your bed. It's not as if you need to sit and read through an entire chapter to understand what's going on. So yeah, this one is a great one. I would say I'm a lot more of a non-fiction reader than a fiction reader. I just find it so much more interesting getting something from an actual real life person's point of view or being able to learn something. It is just a preference. I do also like fiction books. I've got a few of them to show you, but the majority of these are non-fiction. My third book that I want to recommend is one that I don't actually have with me because I read it on holiday last year and I left it in Majorca, and that book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This book was great. It is kind of a little bit of an autobiography, a little bit of a memoir, but also kind of like self-help and comedy all just rolled into one. In the book, Dolly Alderton basically talks through her life and her experiences being a young adult and growing up, a lot of which I assume a lot of people can relate to, whether it is her entire story or just bits of it. There's a lot that's going on and it's just really good to see how she's overcome certain situations to get where she is now. Before I read this book, I had no idea who Dolly Alderton was. It's not like she's like a celebrity and I wanted to learn about her life. I just heard a lot of good things about this book, so I read it and I loved it. On to a fiction book. My next recommendation is Sally Rooney, Normal People. Now, I assume that if you watch kind of this book area of YouTube, you will have heard a lot about this book and this author. I picked this book up to read last summer due to those people also recommending it to me, and it is great. The book tackles some real kind of big issues and it's very real. It's not like a fiction book that creates this like magical landscape and all of these perfect characters. It talks through like real life, and that's what I feel like I really liked about it. It's also a very well written book in terms of tackling teenagers' emotions and stuff as well, I think. So I would definitely recommend reading this if you haven't already. I assume a lot of you will have because it was very much talked about last year. And the final book that I have to recommend from my list is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Capote? I don't know how you pronounce the second name. But yeah, In Cold Blood is excellent. I think I maybe read this about 2 summers ago and I could not put it down. I read it so quickly. I'd say it's probably one of the original kind of thriller true crime books that kind of kick-started this mad generation of true crime lovers that we are in right now. It has also been recently like recovered as one of the Penguin classics, and I would highly recommend that you read it if you're into kind of that more eerie true crimey novel generation, because I love it. And now moving on to the 5 books that I picked up yesterday. I feel like this is probably a good place to start because I picked up another one of the Penguin classics, this one being Lolita. Now I feel like a lot of you will have heard of this book if not already read it. I first heard about it when I was at school because this text is studied quite a lot at kind of national 5/higher level. One of the English sets in my school did this as their higher text. I did not. I did To Kill a Mockingbird, which I would actually highly recommend that book as well. I absolutely loved it. I'd say that's probably the favourite text that I was made to study doing English, and I actually really enjoyed it, so much so I went back and read it again afterwards. But yeah, I've heard a lot about this book and I've just never read it, so I picked it up. I thought now would be the perfect time. It's not that big either, like it's pretty manageable size. So yeah, got a little classic to keep me going. And the next 4 that I have here are all quite similar. They're all quite like self-help, smart thinking, progressive non-fiction books, and that is what I like, so I picked up a few of them. The first one being this one here. This is called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson, and I actually started reading this last night because I had a little flick through and realised that similar to the 100 Nasty Women of History book, they're kind of split up into a lot of smaller sections, so I was really tired. I kind of wanted to start one of the books before I went to bed, so I thought this one would be quite good because it was like a small chunk of reading. Basically, from what I can gather so far about this book, it is kind of talking you through the theory that there are 4 types of human behaviour. There's red, yellow, green and blue, and everyone will fall into a category along that grid. And I love stuff like this, similar to the astrology thing. I think it's just something to do with like human analysis, looking at behaviour and trying to understand people. I really click with that. And I also thought, if nothing else, this might come in quite handy as a teacher. So I picked up this one. Obviously I've not read it, so I can't say whether it's that good or not, but yeah, I'm excited. The next book that I picked up yesterday is called Girls and Sex by Peggy Orenstein. Stein? I'm so bad at names. Basically, when I was getting in lots of recommendations on my Instagram story, I was kind of going through and looking the books up on Goodreads to see what I'd like, what I like the sound of, and this one actually popped up just kind of down the side and I thought it sounded quite interesting. Basically, I'm just going to read the little bit on the back here. It says, renowned journalist Peggy Orenstein paints a groundbreaking picture of today's sexual landscape and reveals how girls and young women are navigating it. And from what I can gather so far, it basically breaks down a lot of the social pressures that young girls are feeling. I think it looks into a bit about the whole like campus rapings and how girls are kind of coming across in social media at the moment. I also think it interviews a lot of young girls as well and kind of gets their kind of take on the situation, and I just thought it was quite interesting. I love a book that kind of makes you think a lot more about a certain thing, and I feel like a lot of people could really do with reading this book, and hopefully it will give me some ideas of my own. Oh, there goes the light again. I hate filming in this room. Okay, so the final 2 books here, I am just ignoring this lighting situation because would be here for hours if we were trying to make it perfect. So again, these are two books that I heard a lot about on YouTube kind of around this time last year, like people's like summer reading lists and everything. These two seem to crop up a lot and I've just never got around to reading them until now. The first one is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Odo Lodge, and again, as I just said, I love reading books that I feel like I'm going to learn from. And coming from a position of being like a white middle class like female living in the UK, there's a lot that I haven't been exposed to. I know that I live in a very fortunate position and I feel like something like this is probably going to be a good read for me. I also noticed that there's a little alteration on the cover here which says includes a new chapter, The Aftermath. So I feel like this is going to be after this book was published, what's actually happened since, and I feel like that's going to be quite interesting. It seems like this book is going to be a lot less of a kind of pick up on the go book. It's going to be one that you need to sit down and actually read. It's not divided up into like lots of little sections, it's very much just like text. So I'm probably going to save this one for a while on the off chance that I do actually get a summer holiday and I can sit on a sun lounger and really get into it. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to reading that one. And the last one that I picked up yesterday is Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies. Now, I'd be shocked if you hadn't seen this one on Instagram even. It's a very Instagrammable book. A lot of people have been using this, talking about this, referring to this throughout Instagram pictures, on YouTube videos, and again, I just wanted to give it a go. This book has been endorsed by so many famous people and like prominent people in society at the moment, and I had a little flick through it in Waterstones and it looks like it's laid out in my kind of way. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this if I hold it up here, but as you can see it is broken up a lot more than just kind of a prose book, and that's what kind of keeps my attention for longer, so I feel like this is going to be a good one. So there we have it. Those are 5 of my own book recommendations and the 5 that I have picked up to get my teeth stuck into in this time of limbo. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I also got a lot of different recommendations from you guys, so I will leave more of them kind of around here right now in case you guys are looking for some different bits and bobs. If there's any titles that interest you, definitely look them up. I had a good old scroll on Goodreads the other day, just like reading them all, seeing what they were all about. So definitely have a little check out of any of these books. If you have any recommendations of your own, leave them down below, because I feel like videos like this, a lot of people come to them to get further recommendations. So let me know, what's your favourite book that you've read recently? Share the love, share the love. Anyway, I'm going to shoot off now because this video is a lot longer than what I anticipated it being. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you do have any other videos that you'd like to see right now, again, let me know down below because I have apparently a lot of time to film now. So yeah. Right, I'm off. Thank you guys for watching. Please do subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you again soon with another video. Goodbye!